So
Okay.
welcome, Angeline. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Yeah, so I'm been very lucky to be in this position where in this final part of the series that we're going to focus on the interview, but I get to put all of the pieces together from the first opportunity where Pauline asked us to reflect on our brand. And then also the second one where she gave us top tips for our CV and our letter of application. And then today we're going to also give you some tips about how to do your interview. But leading up to the interview, I'm just going to walk you a little bit through how I used Pauline's tips to get an interview, right? I'm going to start by sharing with you how I revised my brand. Okay. Um, next slide, please. Okay, so this is what I had originally. So this is what I've got up on LinkedIn as part of my description, the summary of myself, and so that was my original way. So it was just kind of posted about what I liked, who I am, what my job roles have been, what I do outside of the school. But then it was and the things I was interested in doing, and you can clearly see from here I didn't follow the STAR method at all. There wasn't anything about the task or the action or the results that I actually had. So I then went back and revised this using the STAR method. And also because Pauline shared some examples in that first session as well. I looked, okay, so I'm thinking, okay, this is what I did. I'm a dedicated learning and development professional. And I also tailored this for the job that I'm applying for, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a moment. And so I thought I'm going to embed that into my description and my brand, because the job position I wanted to go for is a whole school professional learning and development role. So I wanted that to come across, first of all. This is part of me. I'm good for this job because this is part of who I am and what I'm passionate about. And then I also talked about then, my results, like, because I'm research driven. I want to support educators. That was the task and the action. And I tried to embed more of the results in there. So really trying to put the STAR into my brand as well. So that was one of the first things I revised as a result of that first interview. Pauline, did you want to say
Yeah, I
something
do. I'd
there?
like to go back to that. Well done, Angeline. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us again this afternoon or this evening, wherever you are. Really good to start with the brand piece, and great. I think we've got some new people on the call that weren't there for the first and second round. So great to do the recap. And I think your revised statement really shows who you are. It really talks about what's important to you, not only what you can do as a job, but what you believe in, what you stand for, and what they get when they start to, when they employ you. It's not just, yes, I can do this job. It's, I'm going to do it with passion, with firm beliefs in equity and inclusion, etc., etc. And so in traditional times, people would have started their CV, with a wish or a statement or a hope. There was all these different things you would say. I'm looking for that next position, or I'm hoping to get this next position. And as women, we need to basically set the scene. This is who we are. This is what we're capable of. And set the scene straight off on the top of the CV, because just as a reminder, the CV is generally the first thing everybody goes to look at when they're recruiting. Let's keep going now, Angeline.
Sure. Yeah. So of course, then the next thing I tried to look at was my CV, of course, and then so I think in the next slide, yeah. Oh no, I had my application letter. So in my application letter, I sent my application letter to Pauline. So I feel like I'm getting this free consultation here as by putting myself out there as the mock applicant. And so I sent her my application letter, and I asked her to look at how I wrote it and if she could give me some feedback about it. And so Pauline has selected some of the things that I wrote for this PLDC, which is the Professional Learning and Development Coordinator role. And this was a new role in the school, and it was the first time they had this whole school role that I applied for back in 2018. So Pauline.
Yeah, thanks, Angeline. So what I saw here was that you were really trying to write to the job description that you were applying to. And often what I see in application letters are educational statements or your beliefs or why you follow a particular methodology in terms of pedagogy. You know, it's all quite philosophical at times, and then it might give you a little, you know, I've worked in this particular school and we focused on this, but for me the application letter is the link from the CV, the past, what you've done until now, your career till now, to the future, the job you want. So how do you bring, with the CV and all the information that's in there and the evidence that's in there, how do you link that to the job you're going forward? And how do you write and share the experience you've had, the things you've done? How does that suit that next position? And I think here, Angeline, you really, really did that. So you've talked about what you envisage, so your hope. It's a new role, as you say, so they will expect you to be inspiring and to bring something, you know, how are you going to form and shape that role? And so you did that very well. You've used some really, language is something everybody talks to me about when they're aspiring to leadership roles or applying for a role. And you've used, you know, evidence language as well, if I can call it that. So you talk about proven abilities, and you talk about extensive experience, you know, and with key members of BIS. So already you're showing the level of leadership that you're there. You know, it's those strong words, it's those, it's putting it out there, basically. You know, I know what I can do. These are my skills, these are my abilities. And we tend to feel uncomfortable doing so, but please do so. Think about, if you're going for a coordinator role, let's say, you're going to talk about those coordination tasks. So you're going to use that language. If you're moving to, you know, a more senior role, more leadership role, think about those leadership terms, those strong verbs that you can use, you know, to get the message across. In your next paragraph, you talked about being a PYP workshop leader and school visitor. Again, quite short, quite simple, but already you've shown I'm a leader of PYP and a visitor, which means I've been in other schools, I've seen other practice, you know, I'm experienced in all of that. So again, you're setting the stage to show your expertise and your experience. And then you've gone on to talk about the various things you've done, you know, international accreditation, which is really important to schools generally. And, you know, I bring a depth of knowledge to the role. Perfect sentence, you know, not excusing it, not saying because, I bring a depth. Brilliant, loved it. I'm always learning about educational topics. So again, you're bringing that open mind. You know, we all talk about being lifelong learners, but how do we show that? How do we show that even though we are experts and we've got lots of expertise and background in what we're doing, how do we show that we're still open? Because we don't know everything about the school we're going into. We don't know everything about the role we're going into. In your case, Angeline, you had some knowledge of the school, but we don't know exactly what we're going into. So we want to show an open-mindedness as well to learning and being, you know, open to those new experiences. You know, and then you go on to, and everybody can have a read here, but you can see the flow that Angeline is showing what she's done. She's showing evidence of things she's done, and she's showing, you know, outcomes. So it's giving a lot of information around her background and why she feels she's the fit and the one to be chosen for this role. Please feel free. We're quite a small group, so please feel free to unmute and, you know, ask away any questions, or if you'd like to intervene at any point, to please do, because we could just rattle on forever, particularly me. So so please do.
I think one of the things you mentioned, Pauline, is that to look for in a CV letter as well, that people are looking for a mindset.
Yes.
Not just and so the bridging of the gap is one thing, but also people are looking for, is this some what kind of mindset are they going to bring in to this?
Yes, absolutely. I can see there's some questions coming in the chat. I can't quite see what they are.
Well, I'll add, because you may have seen my screen change for a moment. I was trying to poll you all without interrupting, but what I did was interrupt. But I was going to ask the question, if you're happy to share, if you could tell us whether you're an aspiring leader or already in a leadership role. And so it seems like so far it's fairly evenly split.
Okay.
We have some attendees who are aspiring to higher roles in leadership, but generally we have some aspiring leaders or some already. It's about even. One question that came in is, should you address the letter to the job description or the personal person specification, or both?
I would say both. Yeah, absolutely. I'm also aware, ladies, that every recruitment consultant, every person will tell you to do something different. I am sharing the value of my experience as a recruiter for over 25 years, but more importantly, the last 8 years in international schools, where I work with 20 plus search committees per year who are promoting people into aspiring roles or hiring leaders. And the things they look for on CVs, we all might go, oh, really, did somebody, oh, okay, that's interesting. And those aha moments I've tried to capture and give that information to you, so that it, you know, certainly for the CV, if you can take away all, you know, a lot of the general questions, take away what you can, you know, that you can just put on there, so that it's there, don't need to talk about it, and so that it allows the interview to be a deeper dive about you and why you're the right person for this position.
Mhm. Yeah, so thank you for pulling those things out of my letter, and so of course the CV. I went back to my CV and looked at what I had originally, and I must admit I just listed my positions, partly because I've been at my school, as you can see, for 15 years and over 15 years, and so to describe every little thing I've done in all of those positions just seemed like it would take forever, and it would be 3 pages long. But I went back and revised it, looking at the STAR method as well. And so the most recent roles that I had in the next slide, as you can see, I've gone back to say, you know, what is the situation, the task, the action, and the results that I was able to do in those roles, so that they would have a better idea of what did it mean for me to be in this curriculum coordinator role. And as you can see, I took that professional learning and development coordinator role that we're doing a mock about, but I did that for 2 years, and then now I'm able to describe also what I could achieve in that. So that's how I went back to revise, thanks to Pauline's tips. But I think we're also all here for the interview part, so I'm kind of keen to get to
Sure.
that as well. So Pauline, tell us about what makes a good interview.
So you've got to be confident in what it is you want to be able to bring across in an interview, so that you can share your passion, your energy to the person that's interviewing you, so they realize that you really want this job and you want it for the right reasons. You're not desperate for the job. So there's a difference between wanting and being desperate. And often it really depends on the interviewing panel, whether they are skilled interviewers or not, how that interview is going to go, whether they're going to make you feel comfortable, whether they're going to, you know, set you at ease and guide you and help you along, so that they get the best out of you in that interview. I've also seen interviews that's just questions firing at you with little collaboration or little conversation, right? It's just people getting answers to questions. So while you're wanting to respond succinctly to every question that's asked of you in an interview, you also want to try and trigger, you know, to give answers to questions even if they're not being asked. So for instance, if, you know, we go on to a slide later on to say, what should you do before the interview, during the interview, and after the interview? I'm just going to touch on the before here, because I think it runs on nicely. Clearly, you've got to research the school that you're going to, or the position that you're, the organisation that you're going to apply to. You need to research. And I wouldn't say every single page of a website, because that's impossible, but you're looking for the key things. Again, remember your values and your mission and vision. How does the school or the organisation align with that? So you're looking at highlights, you're looking at press releases, you know, what's been going on recently. What's the school proud of recently? Do you have previous experiences that you could link to, that you could talk about in the interview as well? So you're looking for those common factors, but you're also looking for the things you're missing. Do you see a commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion and justice on the website? Do you see a commitment to child protection and keeping the school environment safe? and etc., etc. So you're looking for those things as well. And that's your before. So you feel prepared in being able to speak to things that are going on in school. And I've also seen wonderful, wonderful websites, very polished with lots of information. And then when you get people in front of you, sometimes the people in front of you don't always know what's even on the website. And that sounds very critical, but I'm trying to be very honest. So again, it's how do you link those things? How do you say, you know, from my research, or I tapped into this, or I'm very interested in that. So again, you're showing that you're doing your research beforehand. And then during, really important to try and make connections. Now, for the last year, of course, all the connections have been like this. So I find myself looking at you all through the screen, but it's, you know, there's 14 people on the screen right now. It's almost impossible for me to see your facial expressions. Are you raising your eyebrow when I speak? Are you happy with what I'm saying? Are you not happy with what I'm saying? It's really difficult for me to judge. And that brings a different dynamic now when we're interviewing, and one we need to be aware of. So again, what's your presence through the camera? Can people see you? Because you as being the person being interviewed, you're usually the one person on the screen, right? Or bigger on the screen, they put you in the speaker thing. So, you know, can people see you, but also can you see them? And be comfortable with asking for that. You know, can I see you all on screen? I've been actually really pushing committees to all be on camera once there's an interview going on. I really don't believe that people should be off camera when it's interviewing. So again, you can say, oh, thank you for joining. I just don't see you right now, you know, and create that comfortable atmosphere for yourself. We'll talk a little bit about during in a minute, because there's lots of people like to think about language. And I'll just jump on after right now. After an interview, I would always send a thank you note. In the olden days at the fairs, you were asked to put one of these thank you cards, I think, in all these mailboxes, and maybe I'm just showing my age now because that's what I was told everybody did. But I think it's always good to send a thank you note and to say what you enjoyed about the interview. And this gives you an opportunity as well. Is there something that you think afterwards, you know, when you come out and you think, oh, wish I would have said that, or I should have elaborated a little bit more on that, or oh, I totally forgot, that would have been so relevant. This gives you an opportunity to say, and to elaborate, say, thank you so much, really enjoyed that we talked about that. I was energized by your conversation, and it reminded me that I should have told you this in the interview, so here you are. So you're not being pushy, you're being proactive, you're building that relationship, you're continuing to build that relationship, and you're giving, if there's any gaps that you've missed, you know, you're giving some further information. So I think we should move on now, right?
Great. Thank you so much, Pauline, for those great tips about what to do before, during, and after. And so keep in mind, we're going to play for you now. Pauline interviewed me, pretending I was going for that professional learning and development role. Keep in mind that I wasn't moving to a new school. So instead of doing the research about the school online, obviously I had information about that already, because I was looking for a promotion within the school. And so we're going to play you a short clip, and then after the clip, we're going to put you into breakout rooms so you can chat in a smaller group about what you witnessed. And so look for the star, and maybe what did you notice, and any tips that you would give me following that clip. Okay. So without further ado,
let's see if we can get to the video, and that hopefully you can all hear it okay. Please let me know if you can't, because my computer has been dodgy sharing my screen recently.
Angeline, I'm delighted to talk to you about the whole school development role today, and I'd like to talk on a number of areas of your previous experience. But before we get into the devil in the detail, just tell me in general, why is it you believe you're ready to move from a focus on a primary role to now a whole school development role? Because it's quite a jump. So I'd like to understand more about why you believe you're ready right now.
I believe I'm ready right now to move into a whole school role, because I think that even though my previous role has been in the primary, I've been able to cultivate a lot of relationships with my secondary colleagues that I think that I could really capitalize on in the whole school position to further any school development planning that's going to come out. And I also think that with my experience as an IB POP workshop leader, I've also led a lot of IB continuum workshops. So I'm also familiar with the other programs. And so my experience there, I've been able to talk about with them, approaches to teaching and learning. And whilst I may not be like a diploma expert, I'm able to understand the bigger picture and bring the people who are experts in those teams together in order to achieve a common goal. And from what I understand of this role that is new for our school, that we're going to be, visioning together. And so that's something that I also do well. So I'm able to ask my colleagues in the primary school, as I have successfully done in the past. We've been able to co-construct our goals together and then achieve those results. And so I think that specific approach will be really beneficial at the whole school level.
Mm. You started off by saying, capitalize on your relationships throughout the whole school. Tell me more about that. How will you go about doing that?
Well, I think that, it's good to know who some of the key players are. You need the right people on the bus to make any significant changes in a school. And I know that there are some whole school plans in the works where we're going to ask people to learn and be really uncomfortable and make changes. And so you need buy-in. And I think that buy-in is not going to happen unless you have trust. And I feel like I have the trust of my secondary school colleagues because in the past I have led, the synchronized visit, and so whilst I have worked with a coordination style process with them, I think that they would also, and through that, I have proven to them that I am collaborative, and then so I think that is those, like that, I guess you could say those. Points in the bank that I have of trust is going to work really well here in this world.
Great. And then if I touch slightly on the curriculum, you talked about PYP and you said, while I'm not a DP expert, I'm sure you've got a DP expert in your school. So how are you going to get those on board? Those who think that you're totally primary focused and that you don't have enough curriculum knowledge yet to be able to do such a developmental role?
Well, I think that doing a developmental role, any developmental role I don't need to be an expert in all the different areas. I think what I need to be able to facilitate is a change process. And so I think that that's my strength and experience and the level of expertise, which I've proven time and time again with how I lead workshops and are able to build that community, even with a new community with 3 days, in order to be able to achieve a common goal. And I think that I'd love to be able to utilize those skills I have working with people across the programs that I do outside of school to now benefit with that in our school.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's where the video ends.
Yeah, it's always weird watching yourself, but
yeah, amazing that you did this, Angeline. I think watching ourselves back in an interview situation would be so inviting for so many people. Well done.
You are so kind and generous to put yourself on the spot like this, Angeline. Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun actually when we did this, but I'd love to give everyone a chance to debrief that as well in some breakout groups.
Yeah, I'll set those up now. So just give me 2 ticks while I work out how many we are. I think we might go into 3 if that's a bit big. We can move things around, but then that way each of us can be in one with everyone else. So I will assign you automatically.
So keep in mind the star. And I think in the next slide, Kyra, if you can move us forward.
Yeah, give me 1 tick. Oh, I'm not sure if I can do both actually. Hold on.
Angeline, I'm just experience.
All right. Yeah.
So look for star and think about did I answer the questions that she actually asked, and Pauline was thinking, did my competence come through? So think about that as you go into the breakout rooms.
All right. So let me do first of all breakout 1.
Okay.
I'll just give me a tick so that we're all in one.
Thank you, Kyra. You're doing so much organisation.
Yeah,
No
that's
worries,
great.
no worries. And then I'll be in the last one. There we go. We should all
Yeah.
be in. We're going to be about 10 minutes. Is that right?
And no, I think if we keep it a bit shorter, because we've got a few other little interview snippets. So just like have a quick debrief, and then we're going to pull you back in together into the main room. And we're going to show you another little clip, and then you're going to go into the room again as well, so they get several chances to have a chat.
Okay, so I'll set a timer then for like three minutes and bring you all back
Yeah,
after.
maybe
3 to
4
4.
minutes
Yeah.
or so.
Okay, see you soon. All right, so you should be able to join now.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, it's just us left. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hang on. So we stay in because we're hosts. We can't go in. I've moved you there. Hang on. Let me try.
Yeah, I could go in.
You have a choice to go in if you want.
Yeah,
to.
I do. Yeah, sure. Do you want to? I might leave them though, so they can talk freely about me.
Yeah, fine.
but you could pause the recording, perhaps.
Yeah.
Waiting for everyone should be back in a second.
Yeah, if I all of a sudden leave, it's because I have an online parent forum thing to go to. So it's not because I don't want to stay on and finish. I might just have to leave. Yeah.
No worries. As I was saying, Tanya, we'll have a recording of this, and I'll share the Women Ed YouTube channel where it will go afterwards.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Watch it back.
Yes.
So welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeah. So Pauline, you're here with us again. Yeah. So maybe we'll take a few thoughts from the different breakout groups. And you were in a group. I think you were in group 2, Pauline, at that time.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Miranda to share, if I might, because she picked up on quite a lot of things. Is that all right, Miranda? I'm putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, so one of the questions was, did Angeline, did she nail it? What did you notice? And we were talking about the STAR, is it method? Do you call it the STAR method or the STAR approach? I was looking for the STAR, and what was really punctuated to me and stood out was her ability to articulate the results and the outcomes. As a final statement, it was the last thing that we heard as she ended her response to most of the things, even the ones that Pauline came back and picked up to challenge her with. She still went through that process and finished it with, and these were the results that I owned. Done. And so that was the last thing we heard, which as an interviewer, I appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else from the other group?
So in group 1, we had Carol, Christine, and Kirsten. And in group 4, we had Rosemary, Sarah, Tanya, and Zan. Oh, sorry, Kirsten. Yeah.
Anyone like to share out what they saw in the other groups?
So in our group, this was group 3, we talked about how Angeline, we thought her STAR method, her competence really came through. So she really did follow that method. When she was asked by you to go deeper around her, how she could take her knowledge of all her different roles in the PYP up to the other programs, she was able to give, very specific answer. Her competence really did come through. She used the right language. We also talked about that she also was quietly confident, and she gave really good eye contact, and so that quiet confidence came through. Yeah, I also thought she was passionate as well, personally. Yeah.
Excellent.
You've got the job, Angeline. You've got the job.
Yeah, I think you've got votes of all of us on this screen, Angeline. And I will say that it wasn't practiced either. That was just one take. That was it. Really good. Does anybody else like to share?
We've got room 1 left. If not, feel free to write us, and we'll move on. But
Yeah. If we go on and see another, if someone's not keen at this point, we can do it. Rosemary's unmuted, I see.
I think I'll just piggyback off what Tanya said, that Angeline was very calm, and I think we all felt that that really came through with her answers, and it made us much more attentive. And I really liked the language she used. I do this well, trust, collaboration, I've proven time again. And I think that that sometimes is, language is a hard thing that women find difficult to embrace and to big themselves up. And Angeline did it in a really calm, confident way. So.
Excellent. You make a great point there, Rosemary. We touched on that in our group to talk about owning the things that we are responsible for driving. And we often feel uncomfortable saying, I did this and I did that, and it sounds a little bit off. And so to really practice that and to find ways to say, I instigated, and together with my team, or I had an idea and I had the framework, and another colleague helped me do something. And one of the questions in our group was, well, if I'm part of a team and there's a bigger initiative, do I talk about what I do, or do I talk about the bigger initiative? And I suggested both. So you set the table about what the initiative is, and then what your part is in that, and what your actions and your outcomes are.
Great.
Yeah, and I think that's also particularly challenging. The research has shown particularly challenging for women. Yeah. And so we really strongly encourage you to try and do that. And it's a cultural thing too. So I grew up in a family where my mum had a saying, and she said, you know, self-praise is no praise, is what she would say. You know, so it was something where, you know, we're not in the habit of talking about ourselves and our achievements. And so, and in some cultures, it might be more pronounced that you don't do that than others as well. And so for me, the way I wrap my head around that is like, I pretend I'm just talking about the facts. This happened.
But that's exactly it.
You know, like this happened. And so and whether it was good or not, that's for someone else to judge in a way, but this is what I did. And so I try and keep that in mind as I was answering questions.
And I think that's where the phrase quietly confident came through, because you don't seem like you're blowing your own horn excessively. It seems very, very authentic what you're saying. And I think that's probably because of that voice in your head saying, just say what happened.
Let's see if I did this in the next one.
Okay, we'll move on to the second clip, and then we'll do the same thing. And I believe this one's a bit shorter, so I think we'll give you a similar amount of time in the breakout rooms to discuss.
So you talked about, you know, capitalizing your relationships. You're an experienced workshop leader. You know how to get people on the bus, Angeline. You know, you're likable, and that really, really helps. But you always build a sense of trust. You know, that all really makes sense to us. This being a new role in our school, we don't have anyone for you to follow, which actually means that you can, you know, create this role as you see fit, Angeline. But how are you going to do that and still reach the outcomes that we expect? Talk to me about the milestones or the journey you'll take to reach those outcomes.
I think this journey, because it is going to be new, that obviously I hope to enter into a collaborative relationship with the senior leadership team, because I feel like this role is really an expansion and a shared leadership possibility there. And so, you know, whilst I might bring my own ideas to the role, I think that we need to spend, you know, the first couple of months really envisioning what that will look like together. And so what I'm good at is learning about the different, you know, like, I guess you could say the scoping part, you know, gathering all of the information. I have connections outside of school, so I can look to people who may have had a similar role in their school beforehand. And so I can do the research. And that's also something that is my strength. I can look at lots of pieces of information, synthesize it, and then come up with a few different proposals as to how we think this is going to work. I think that also to get the results we want, we have to be very good communicators. So we need to have a system in place between all of us in terms of how we're going to communicate my role. I need to ask good questions of you to work out what specific criteria we're going to look for with certain, maybe certain projects that we want, and timeline it out and find a way to communicate about that together. So I think that those are the pieces that I see that could be elements definitely I want to put into place. However, because it is new, we still need to keep it a little bit flexible and dynamic. And you know that I don't really like to work that way. I like to work towards, clear expectations, but I'm also excited of being able to co-create some new actions and results in a way that I think our school hasn't done before, because we want to create more shared leadership within our school. And I think this is an exciting possibility.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, we wanted you to kind of think about the STAR method and think about, but what did you notice this time around? So I'm going to open up the breakout rooms again, and we're going to spend maybe like 4 minutes in there, and so you have a chance to debrief together.
A lot of our colleagues will be wondering, what is then this position? And so I think the clarity needs to then come from the senior leadership team as well. And that can be repeatedly communicated as well. And I think once we're all clear on what I'm expected to achieve in this role with them, then I think that that will help everyone understand my purpose and position, especially in relations to your leadership position and for those of my colleagues around me.
Great, thank you.
All right.
You're hired, Angeline. You're hired.
Yay! Yeah. So I think we're rapidly running out of time, so we won't be able to put everyone back into another breakout room. But maybe we could just take some comments from the group now, yeah, or any observations or thoughts that people have with using this STAR method. Yeah. Sarah?
Can I just say something I observed? I thought you were really good in a sense, you're asking what your weaknesses were, but you actually threw it to the weaknesses were in the other people in terms of them not buying in, which I thought was, I don't know whether that's what you meant, but it came across really well, that it wasn't just your weaknesses, it was about other people too.
I think this was a point that Pauline put across to me, that an interview is an opportunity for the interviewee also to interview the people who are interviewing you, if that makes sense. And so you also want to, it's also a time where you get to suss out what it's going to be like to work for them, right? And so I think that's something that I picked up from Pauline as well.
And I know we're running out of time. I can just give a couple of tips, if I may. Is that all right? Very briefly.
Yeah,
sure. Of course. There are actually new people just joining us, so I just want to take a moment to just let them settle in and let them know what we're doing. Obviously, it's not a webinar, so it might be a little bit confusing if they come in and they recognize that we're in the middle of a debrief, but we've just watched a few clips which will be available to watch back if you want to look at the recording of Angeline going through a mock interview process. And we've just been kind of debriefing on her answers, just so that you're not lost completely when you join us. Sorry, Pauline, go ahead.
No, not at all, no problem. A couple of things around the leadership as well. We've talked often about what's our leadership style as women and what should it be, and there's lots of research and lots of things going on with saying, we've all seen the videos, haven't we? She's bossy, he's assertive, and this comparison to male and female, because the way we look at things is that male have always been in a leading role, and in international schools as well, it's predominantly male. Our example of leadership has come from a male perspective. And so we have to be aware of that. We have to set the stage to saying, when I was a middle leader, or I was just head of department, or whatever your leadership style is, whatever that is, that gets you results. You've got to learn to talk about that in a confident and in the way that Angelina did, giving examples, giving outcomes of your work. We shouldn't be trying to mirror our styles on what has gone before us. if we look in the pandemic, those countries that are doing really, really well right now, I had to get it in there. They are led by females, just saying. And so us to be confident, you know, first to establish what is our leadership style, where do we feel comfortable? You know, where do we know it's right? In our gut, we know it's right. And to have that approach to things, go with that. You know, I was told once in a meeting by a gentleman, oh, you're so emotional. You take such emotional decisions. And I said, thank you very much. I'm really glad that you recognize that I'm emotionally intelligent. Now, inside, I was shaking like anything, but it was an ad lib that I brought, and I don't know where it came from, but I was able to bring that, and the whole room shut down, and everybody kind of was taken aback. Now, that's not the best way to answer that question, of course, but you know, it's again being as confident as Angeline is. Like, I was trying to push a little bit at the end. I was trying to, ask a question or nudge in a particular way that she might have closed down due to nerves, or that she hadn't, she wasn't firm and confident in the things that she was saying. And so, that's why I ask those questions, because there's usually what I see in interviews, that people go, oh, what are the outcomes I'm supposed to achieve? Oh, what am I supposed to do? When actually what she did is said, well, actually, here's the stage. This is what we have. I can do this. This is what I expect from you. So it was very much a conversation. And again, her highlighting her strengths and what she could bring to the role.
I think we can probably just move on just to the questions. We know we're over time, and we know that many of you who have joined a bit later on might realize that we were starting at 5 p.m. in Europe. So I'm sorry for joining us from a UK context. The recording will be available if you want to watch back and see some of the clips that we've been running through with Angeline. But please, any general questions from anyone who doesn't have to dash off, you're very welcome. We'll open the floor, I think, widely now for all of us to just weigh in on what you've seen, or anything else that you'd like to add, or perhaps any questions you have for your own journeys. We'll take those now. And feel free to type them in, or feel free to unmute yourselves and ask them as well. And I'm going to stop sharing so we can see each other a bit better.
And as you're kind of formulating your question, perhaps one of the things I really learned from Pauline too is if you're in a position where you are interviewing someone else, that all of the things that she's saying can also be taken on the other perspective. So like she gave a lot of tips about, what should the interviewer also look for in the interviewee, and what we're expecting, and the types of questions. And I think for any of us going for a job, nothing's more off-putting either when the interviewer is not prepared. They haven't read our CV. They haven't done anything, like, they haven't, and immediately that kind of puts one person off, right? And so when Pauline came with prepared questions, even though it was a mock situation, she had gone through my documents, and so that for me was really, really a good thing.
And I would just add that not everybody is a skilled interviewer. And some people can be great at other things, but they think I've got to ask questions because they're on the form, and we're going to complete the form. And once the form is complete, and we've got to have this approach to everybody. So we're going to ask the same questions of everybody, which is important for clarity and for equity within these interviews. But at the same time, it doesn't really allow for any conversation or any personalization. So a skilled interviewer knows they've got those 5 essential questions they need to ask, but at the same time, they need to allow for the person to be able to really express themselves in the way that they feel most comfortable.
And that's a rarity sometimes, Pauline, in an interviewer. I have to say, the question you asked that said, what can I do to help you? How can I support you? It's not often asked. And I saw a lot of people kind of nodding and thinking, great question.
It isn't. And I put that in expressly, to be honest, so that you can say, because often we say, well, what do you expect of me? The person, and to be confident enough, and not cocky, but confident to say, and what will I be able to, appreciate from you? I remember once interviewing a person, and I hope you don't mind me. I'll give this example quickly. I once interviewed a person and I asked, so what do you expect from me? I'd asked her a lot of things through the interview to see if she was capable of the role. And then I said, so I asked exactly that question, what do you expect from me? And then I got kind of 50 things that she expected from me, which I was taken aback by, but I thought, oh, wow, this is interesting. This is great. But it was like a washing list of things, and I thought, okay, this is, I'd never seen this done before. So it was new. And I said, great. And so, and what can I expect from you? And I responded in that way as the leader, and she kind of was stunned and silent. And what do you mean? And it was kind of like, well, you're the boss. You should be doing all these things for me. But the other way around, whereas true collaboration is where leadership and whoever you are, that you're collaborating together to get to that common purpose within the role and the autonomy and the responsibilities that you have.
Yeah. Great. Well, I mean, I know we could go for longer, and I can see people giving us their time and hanging out. If there are any other questions generally from the floor or any comments you'd like to share, please do. We love that it's more of a collaborative field than our usual webinar format. So please get involved. I can see Miranda thanking. I can see somebody else saying they had to leave and they really enjoyed it. But we hope that we will be able to publish these slides as well on the Women Ed website for you to take a look at. Women Ed also have a general YouTube channel. We always post our recordings there. I fluffed the recording after coming back in the second breakout, so there's a little bit missing, but I think you'll get the gist. And we really, really appreciate you all being here. And hopefully, whether you're interviewing new staff or whether you're going through the process yourself, we really hope it's been helpful for you. And just like to take the opportunity to thank Pauline for giving us 3 hours, actually it's more like 7 hours of her time with all the prep involved, for free as a volunteer, just to help advance our careers. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to Angeline as well for being such a great sport and stepping up to the plate to be interviewed.
No worries. It was an absolute pleasure. It was like I got some free coaching from Pauline, so it was well worth it. And but also if you're joining us and watching this recording for the first time, do check out the other two, because the first one talks about your brand, and then the second one talks about your CV and letter. So hopefully you saw all the pieces come together in this final installment. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Pauline, for all of the great tips that you've shared with us.
It's been a pleasure. Kyra, Angeline, the work you're doing in the Women Ed movement is so close to my heart, and I can't thank you enough for all of the hours and volunteerism that you give, because you give so much to this cause, and through you so many people are feeling that 10% braver and standing up, and recognizing what they can do and what they can change. And anything I can do to support that, that I'm here.
Here's to some kick-ass women in leadership positions all over the world, wherever we're spread. And I know, Pauline, before you go, I know you wanted to announce something for our guests as well, something that they're invited to and welcome.
Absolutely. So ISS has been running the Marianne Haas Symposium for some years now. And it was an in-person event, but it has now gone online. So we have our monthly get-togethers, and it's really about taking time for women leaders and to just we've got different themes going, but it's a group of very established heads of school, administrators from all around the world that join. Marianne Haas, for those of you who don't know her, she turned 95 on the 17th of March, and she has been an absolute trailblazer of a leader in international schools. So you can imagine all those years ago how difficult it will have been for her. So in her honor, we have this group coming together, and you're all welcome to sign up for any of those events. It's a great way to network, and it's a great way to also see who's the female head of school in certain in certain schools as well. So a great way to start, looking to see if you recognize people or to introduce yourselves to people as we go into breakout groups, etc. That's how we start to network. So
I think I've got that right, but we'll include a link in the slides, which you can download then from the Women Ed website, and we'll tweet it out as well. We'll tweet out a link so you can follow along.
Great.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great evenings, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Have a great evening.
Maybe we can hang here for a moment, Pauline, so we don't feel like we're saying goodbye to you. So,
Do I want to stop the recording? Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.